Where to inspect your 126 and 123 front end parts for failure. Well, I made a video a few weeks back that I think left people with more questions than answers about replacing front end components on your 123, 126 and similar Mercedes. And so I thought it would be a good idea to showcase some of the items that I discussed in the video so that you can understand where the failures actually occur. And it'll help us to see some of these parts. And it's always fun to look at new Mercedes parts as well. So first of all, I have an upper control arm. And this upper control arm is actually made by TRW for Mercedes. See how it has a Mercedes number on it? Good stuff, huh? Now these bushings on upper control arms don't really go bad. The main problem with the upper control arms is that this ball joint goes soft. And if you can tell by how much force I'm using in my giant brute hands, it's taking me quite a bit of force to actuate this ball joint. But when these ball joints go bad, believe it or not, what you get is an extreme looseness where you can move them with just one or two fingers. So, of course, this loose ball joint syndrome is nothing new. In fact, this is going to be the prime determinant of how your steering should feel and your suspension should feel. Now, another item we're going to look at is the guide rod mounting bushing, if I can get this bag open. Now, this part number is not the mounting bushing, the guide rod bushing. Now, this is sold under part number 126, 330, 1035. What does that mean? It means it's expensive. So, sorry. But, you know, you want quality, you got to pay for it. Now, these things rust around this lip where they go in, at this expansion joint. And believe me, you can do a world of good either by putting grease here or painting this when you install it in the car. But for the most part, I wanted to show you the guide rod joint. Now, this is recessed inside a housing, so you won't even be able to see this round part. You'll only be able to see the boot. There's a lot of paint on this thing too, by the way. But what we have is a nice clear boot. Now, if you look in here and the boot is disintegrated, then it's probably worn out or close to being worn out and you should replace it. If you look in here and you see rust and barely any remains of a boot, those guide rods are done. Time to go. Get them out. And again, that part number was 126, 330, 1035 because there is some confusion about that part. Next, we're going to look at the lower ball joints themselves. So this lower ball joint is a factory Mercedes ball joint. $63. Is it worth it? Yeah, I think so. Now, as you can see, I can't move this thing easily. I can move it, but it requires a lot of force. I'm on the phone with the Florida Department of Revenue, by the way. Great customer service. You could tell this is a Mercedes unit by the Mercedes stamp down here, but where do these fail? Well, this boot disintegrates. Now, this is located in the bottom of the steering knuckle, so it's a little hard to spot because you're not going to be able to see this part. This part actually presses into the knuckle with the special ball joint press. This part bolts into the lower control arm with a 22 millimeter nut, so really the only part that you can see is the boot itself. Now, on the Mercedes ball joint, the boot is extremely strong and lasts for a really long time. What I tell people is if your boot's disintegrating, it's time to replace it. And if you see rust and not very much boot left, you need to do the replacement sooner rather than later, as in get off your butt and do it. Call to action. Now, this is a center drag link, but it also represents your tie rods. Now, the tie rod, now this thing itself is not, you know, you can see that these ball joints are quite new and fresh. They don't bounce back that easily, but they do it a little bit. They're very smooth and they have nice intact boots. So ball joints in a tie rod should not be excessively stiff. They should be smooth. But what they should not have is a ton of wobble when you push them from side to side. And if you grip the receiving member and the base of the ball joint with a giant channel lock. It should not compress in. It should not be squeezable. And if you see a broken boot, again, just replace the member. It's usually a sign that thing's been exposed to road dirt, you know, especially if you want the car to align right and feel right. This Mercedes center drag link, by the way, is about $100. It's for like a 560 SL. It was built in 2017, and I think the supplier here is TRW as well. I could be wrong, but the number is 126-460-0805. Now, one other item that we're going to look at is the idler arm kit. And so this idler arm will develop up and down play, and the main component of the idler arms are these lovely rubber bushings, which are really the only ones that you have to replace. But these bushings tend to get so compressed that they will, and then of course the metal sleeve that goes through the center of the bushing wears in the bushing, and that's where you get that up and down play from. Now, if this gets bad enough, you will forever find that you have to overcorrect your steering to the right or the left, and it gets really annoying. So those are your major front end components. I mean, if you see cracks in the lower control arm bushings or the lower control arm bushings, take them at face value and replace them. But those are the things that you need to be checking for on your standard front end parts. If you enjoy this video and you found it helpful, please like, share, and subscribe, and please tap the bell for notifications. In addition, if you have a comment about replacing your front end part or a different brand of parts or your experience with aftermarket brands, please leave it in the comments below. I know Limforder recently shifted production over to Asia, so their stuff isn't as good as it used to be, and I don't recommend using it anymore. In the meantime, enjoy working on your Mercedes Benz and stay informed about how to keep your classic Mercedes on the road, so you don't have to replace it with some new defective E430 or something with a 1.8 liter quad turbo engine that's going to explode at 70,000 miles. Thank you to all of our Patreon members. Remember to tap that bell and like our video. See you later and enjoy it.